All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today, this Tuesday at noon. My name is Tim Fullerton. I am the president and CEO of Fullerton Strategies, a marketing agency, and I want to thank you all for joining us today to talk about building authentic engagement on LinkedIn. This is a really big topic that there's been a lot of discussion about. Obviously, people see a lot of growth hackers and things out there telling folks some things that maybe are not in their best interest. And so we want to spend this hour today talking to you all about how best to build authentic engagement on LinkedIn, because that's the name of the game. If you don't have authentic engagement, what are we even doing here? So with that, I have two folks that probably most of you are quite familiar with as they talk quite a bit in this space every day. And so I am going to let both of these, my esteemed colleagues here, introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Liam because he's to the right of me right now on the screen. So go for it.
Cool. Thank you for having me, Tim. It's awesome to be here for another one of these powwows with you. I really enjoyed our last one. I'm Liam Darmody. I'm the founder of Liam's Brand Stand, which is a personal brand consultancy that's focused on helping founders, coaches, and executives build brands that attract clients, talent, and opportunity. Started the business in August, marrying sort of my passion for LinkedIn content creation with some of my experience as a sales operations and revenue operations exec in a prior life. And have been doing some business coaching as a part of that as well, really enjoying it. And yeah, LinkedIn has changed a lot in the last 4 years. John and I have been connected for at least that time frame. We met back in the heyday of the Clubhouse days with John Marty and a bunch of other folks that are no longer here hanging out and spending a ton of time. So it's going to be a really good conversation to talk about some of those evolutions.
Great.
Yeah. My name is John Kraske, and yeah, Liam and I met. We took a class with this guy John Marty. He was big. He was an Amazon exec and big on LinkedIn and YouTube, and then he used that to pivot into like real estate investment, and then just disappeared. So that's why we actually met. So long ago. But Liam and I, we're two of like the so-called bigger creators that have never used the pod to grow. So I think that's our claim to fame. That's my new kind of like initiative right now. I'm taking on the pod monsters. I would say I've been active on LinkedIn the last 3 years posting content. And yeah, it's been life-changing. I mean, I've done about as much as you can do just like in terms of building a personal brand. Man, I got a book deal from Wiley, which is one of the world's largest publishers. I was a cold DM on LinkedIn. I created an innovation events company using my LinkedIn community. We had almost 30,000 global members, held 30 events around the world, places like London, Tel Aviv, Dubai, Amsterdam, LA, New York. Had a TV show, did almost 100 episodes. The main sponsor came through a LinkedIn post I did. So that funded that TV show. And I have a croissant named after me in Paris. I think that's my proudest accomplishment. So a lot of crazy stuff can happen on LinkedIn, but it's about the relationships. I definitely have not done a great job yet of really monetizing it. I haven't like really like I haven't really like I have a couple different things I'm trying to do, but I've never really like made a ton of money like a lot of LinkedIn gurus will tell you. I think it's a lot harder than you think. I also think there's a lot of false narratives out there in terms of what people are willing to pay you for a ghostwriter. As a ghostwriter, you hear these like, oh, these people are making 10 to 20,000 per client. I don't think that's true at all. So I've talked to some of the biggest executives and celebrities in the world, and I mean, you're lucky if you can get somebody to pay you $2,000 a month. That's been my experience. So I just like when I hear the word authenticity, for me, it's about keeping it real. So that's how I define it. So I'm excited about this chat.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree. And, I've sort of on my channels, I don't have the follower accounts that either of you have, but I really only started using it about a year ago because I was always mostly in the political and government space. So not exactly the place where a lot of conversation on LinkedIn. I was much more active on Twitter back in the day, though I've left that now and spent a lot more time here. But my agency is only a little bit over a year, and I would say that 80 to 90% of my business has come from LinkedIn. Now, usually that's because it's a connection that I already had, but the fact that I'm like pumping out content fairly regularly and getting in front of those people, basically just means that they are, when they have a need, they've probably seen some of my content recently. So the authenticity thing is big for me too. And I think the first thing I want to sort of discuss, and then we'll start with a negative and then we'll move on to the positives. But for some of the folks on the line that don't know, can you guys, either maybe Liam, you can start first, and then John, we'll do a back and forth. What are these pods, and explain how they work? And because I think it's important to the audience to understand how certain people are taking advantage of the algorithm to boost it, because I think there's a massive misconception out there that this is, like John, you just said, that this is easy, and it's not. So let's talk about that first, and then we can talk about ways to avoid that approach.
Sure. I also just want to note how wide both John and I grinned when you started talking about this, because it's a topic that we're both very passionate about. So an engagement pod is essentially, in its purest form, somebody sets up a group, either WhatsApp or on LinkedIn or Telegram or whatever, and they charge people to participate in that group. And the whole thing is quid pro quo. So you're invited to join. You meet all these different people that are paying money into this pod, and then you all just like each other's stuff and comment on each other's stuff and artificially boost the performance of each other's posts. Of course, it's not marketed as such, right? It's, oh, you're building relationships and connection and everybody loves each other and we're here to support you and blah, 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 until you're not. And then when you're not engaged anymore and you're not paying the money to these pod monsters, as John has dubbed them, you are essentially back to square one, because all that engagement that was propping up your content before no longer exists because you're not a part of that pod anymore. So there are, two schools of thought on it. There's one that is more so thinking this is just good to help and support each other and get you feeling comfortable and get you, feeling okay with posting. Then the other one is, well, to what end, right? You're sort of kicking yourself in the foot. You're sort of kicking yourself in the butt if you're, spending time in these engagement pods. You're not really learning how to build engagement, because you're not doing it organically. So that's the side I'm on. That's probably the side John's on. That's the side Tim's on. And I just think it's important for people who are coming to this platform with a lower follower count, and they're seeing all these big personalities talking about 0 to 60K followers in a year, and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight, and all you have to do is write these pretty little posts that look like Christmas trees and spaced out and like left and right. Just don't, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, and you should think critically about whether or not you want to participate in that.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
off my soapbox.
I give you a very tangible example. I've talked to somebody recently. I've talked to two people recently, and these pod monsters, they have these inflated follower accounts. So then they obviously then have their hourly consulting, right? And that's typically about $2,000 an hour for one of these big pod monsters, which is crazy. As you know, some of the top attorneys in the world, literally top attorneys in the world, don't even charge that hour. And you got these LinkedIn consultants charging $2,000 an hour. I'm just like, it's mind boggling. So it's amazing how many smart people I've talked to that actually have paid this, because they are so desperate. You don't know where people are coming from in life. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they just got divorced. They're trying to whatever it is. I think there's a lot of people that are being taken advantage of because they're searching for answers. So they get sucked into this pod monster funnel. So step one is then they go to one of these LinkedIn gurus and you pay $2,000. You figure, okay, I'm going to be taught a bunch of stuff. They have the secret. They're going to unlock it for me. They're going to get me all these followers. And then literally it's a pyramid scheme, because what they're going to tell you to do, it's literally like, all right, the growth hack is this. You need to now pay another $8,000 a year to join our country club pod. Not a joke. I'm telling you, this is a real example of something that happened in the last 30 days. And I've talked to two people that had the same thing happen. And mind you, this person literally had 0 followers a year ago, and this person now has 330,000. So, they went all in on the pods. And there's a list in this specific one, there's a list of 80 people that are in it. And you can tell a lot of times who these people are. They love carousels. They love these crazy charts with massive amounts of information. And it is tricky for LinkedIn, because that kind of stuff keeps people on the platform longer and is driving traffic. So LinkedIn's okay, well, we LinkedIn knows who they are. and they're stuck in this hard place because they're like, well, how much can they really do? I mean, I know they've tried to shift around the algorithm, but you can quickly tell these people, it's like some generic post. There's nothing special about it because not, most of the information I've seen, people are just requoting other famous people or
Right.
crazy charts. I don't even know where they get these charts. I mean, these charts are like so much information going on. I'm just like your head spinning, but you can usually quickly identify them because you're also wondering like, who the hell is this person, right? You know, who the hell is this person? There's Favicon. I love Jeremy. I met him. He's great. He also I think is kind of more on Liam and my side, but it's like he's kind of like Switzerland. He's like he doesn't know exactly what to do, but I mean, these people are literally, I mean, they're manipulating a lot of like the rankings. I mean, because they have so much engagement. So you see them and they're being ranked ahead of people like Barack Obama
Right.
and I mean, you're just like Snoop Dogg and like or even Ryan Reynolds. You're like, how is this person I've never heard of all of a sudden ranked as a better creator than these people who have already done things? Bill Gates is like in the
Yeah.
50s on one of these lists. I mean, it's absolutely insanity. So I guess my goal is you'll appreciate this. I mean, I run my LinkedIn like a political campaign because as Liam knows, when I was first in like really getting active on LinkedIn, I was fighting all the liars, cheaters, scammers, and cash grabbers in Web3. So I'm basically taking that kind of that same energy and now attacking the pod monsters. But I run my LinkedIn like a political campaign. I really do. It's like good versus, evil, poor versus rich. These are the narratives. I keep it pretty simple. Oh, yeah. Andy Jassy, too. Yeah, Andy Jassy was behind like most of these pod monsters. I mean, come on. Like he runs Amazon. But yeah, so I think I would just say this. Trust your gut. Your gut is almost always right. So when you're looking at one of these people and you're just like, am I doing something wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. You're not cheating. That's the only thing you're not doing wrong. You're not cheating. I'm telling you right now, people, you're not doing anything wrong. Find your tribe on there. There's lots of amazing people like myself, Liam. I think Darren McKee, who's a big creator who does it right. And there's certain creators that are doing it right. Tima El Haj, I loved as well. She like it's crazy. I've been on the platform for 3 years and I actually didn't even really realize this was going on until recently. I'd heard about it, but now I'm like really deep because I'm talking to people with specific information. I've been showing documents, and I'm the wrong guy to show documents. I turned in an old CFO for stealing 500,000, so I'm the wrong guy to go down this rabbit hole. So, like, I mean, now that I have the information, now I'm a wild man. But I'm telling you right now, it's like there's definitely it's time for a new narrative on LinkedIn. So I'm excited about it. I think people are starting to see actually what's going on, which is great.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that it's funny because last year when I started my own business, I was following a lot of these people, and I was like, because I was like, oh, they're big accounts. Like there must be things that I can learn from them. And the reality of what I learned from them is like they post a lot, they're on all the time, and there's not a lot of things of value. It's a lot of like, when you see it after a while, it's very repetitive. But that's because it catches a whole group of people and they've got these pods pumping them up. But I think the thing that like bothers me the most, and I want to talk to you guys about this, is what it does to the regular person that's on LinkedIn, right? And John, you made a good point. Maybe that person just lost their job. Maybe that person's going through a divorce. Maybe there's some medical debt or student debt or whatever it is, and they're seeing these accounts and in this narrative being pushed out there that frankly in a sense, they're saying it's easy, just do it this way. And the message that sends to somebody that may not be in a great situation is a really terrible one. And I've seen it because I've seen people say it to me that they're like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I do this? And that to me, look, like everyone's going to always try to make a buck, right? No matter where they could do it. But the fact that it's having such a negative impact on, they're not creators, right? They're people looking for tips to get a job, or they're, looking for maybe to make a jump in a career. And they're seeing these people, like you said, the guys with 300,000 in like a year. It's like that you're not going to learn anything from them. And it just ruins the experience on the platform, I think. But I think you're right. People are catching on to it. And I mean, you guys call it out quite a bit. And, I've started to realize it myself. It's kind of obvious once you see the tells, but it just bothers me. But I'm glad that there is like a group of folks, and you guys are included, that are, you're talking about the optimism, you're talking about the hard way to do it, which you guys did it the hard way,
Oh,
like,
I mean, Liam, honestly, if Liam had joined a pod, he's been so active. I mean, he would probably already have a 500,000 followers or more. Like he knows that too. and I would probably too. We would probably be like, we'd have those crazy numbers if we wanted to go that route.
Right.
Because we're more active than probably most of them with like just in terms of our own content, other creators. So we could have gone down that road, but I did a post like the pod monster factor. I think it's 90% inflated with just like juiced up by the pod. I don't even you look. I actually went just like a week ago. I looked at like because they have so many reposts, and I'm looking at these people who repost. Almost all these people who repost have like they're not even active on. They can't like they're very active. They have less than 1,000 followers. I'm like, who are these people? I mean, I don't even know what's going on, but it's like it's insanity. It's insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Tim, like it's a very uniquely LinkedIn problem, I think, because if you talk to most people who post on Instagram, they view posting on Instagram as just they're sharing a window into their world, and their family's going to see it, and their friends from college are going to see it, and that's really the motivation. But there's some chasm that gets crossed when they come over to LinkedIn that all of a sudden everybody needs to be famous, everybody needs to be keeping up with the Joneses, everybody feels the need to have all of this engagement. And per John's point, like I would rather have a smaller following that is more engaged than have 500,000 followers and get, you know, marginally better engagement on a per post basis than I have. But as a fraction of total engagement, it's not great. Right. And like you also have to, I think, look in behind the numbers. Right. If you look at some of these posts that have 300 reactions, 40 comments, and then 65 reposts. Something is off there because reposts are very hard to get organically. And yet you're getting more reposts than you are comments. That doesn't make sense. It's not logical, right? And so I think people have to look into that. And then to John's point, you click into the repost and it's like you have all of these pages that are created by the folks that run these pods, and this is their distribution network,
Right.
and they're promising you access to this distribution network, and they just repost the posts, and that tells the algorithm that people are reposting, so then you might get some more distribution, which is fine. Whatever, you guys want to game the system like that, go for it. But like people are not clicking into the repost, so they're not paying attention to this, so all they're seeing is, man, that guy gets so many reposts, I want to be a part of whatever they're doing. And
Right.
it's like, no, peel it back. 2,500 per repost. What? Who said that? Is that a real charge that people are
Oh my
charging?
God.
I've heard that number. I've heard the number.
Dude,
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah. That number, I think that's accurate. It ranges, I think, based on their followers, but yeah, 10K per year. Wow, 10K.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
These are
well,
big.
let's
I
let's
mean, this is a big movie. Yeah, big numbers. But you know what? At the end of the day, this won't last forever. That's all I'll say. Is like, it's a scam. It's a cash grab. Whatever. We can call it whatever we want. But again, I don't like
yeah.
Liam said, just based on all that. I mean, how many real relationships are you building on that? Probably none. I mean, that's
No.
one other thing I will say is you don't see most of these pod monsters ever doing stuff like this. You never see their face. They're never like doing interviews. It's like that's another great way. That just look at some of these people. Have you ever see them doing collaborative stuff with other creators? Do you see them like shouting out other amazing creators?
No.
yeah.
Well, let's I think we've given everyone a good taste of the pods and
Yeah.
bad behavior there.
You opened up Pandora's box, Tim.
No, I think it's important because I think it does affect the platform and it affects the algorithms and it's not it's I think counterproductive in all the ways. But so you guys both, John, you're around 78, 80,000. Liam, you're over 40,000. I'm the little guy with 5. But you guys built this the right way. And so for the folks on here, like, how did you do that? And how do we like start, showing the folks on the line, like the things they can do? Because obviously, like not everyone's going to be able to be, I'll say terminally online, like the 3 of us necessarily, but like, how did it start? And, I think John, you've been on the longest as far as consistency, or Liam, which one's
I think Liam's probably been
all right.
longer than me.
So Liam's going to go first then. So Liam, tell me how you went from 0 to 40 in what, a couple years?
About 4 years now, so
4
it
years.
hasn't been a short growth path. Yeah, I think the thing that I tell people is that if you treat LinkedIn like a journal that you would share with family, friends, and colleagues, you'll typically find yourself creating content and sharing thoughts that are worthwhile for people to listen to. There's the catharsis that's associated with that, like just kind of talking about what you're passionate about, follow your fascination. Like I started using LinkedIn consistently to create content when my daughter was born in 2019, November 2019, because I found myself consuming a lot of content here. I was never really all that big in other social media channels. I wasn't really trying to grow a big audience or anything anywhere else, but I found myself consuming a lot of content here. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to start creating content here. And I felt all of the same insecurity that most people feel about posting on LinkedIn. What's my employer going to think? What's my existing network going to think? Do I even have the right to post here? I don't have a PhD in operations. I don't have an MBA or anything. And there's this pressure that you feel because it's a professional network and people think they don't have the right to post. So I just started pushing myself out of my comfort zone and just sharing things that were interesting to me. So for the first 4 years of me being on this platform, that's really what it was. It was my community. It was a place where I met with a bunch of fantastic people. I think one of the things that I learned through the pandemic was the power of online presence to build a global network, right? I was having conversations with people in Australia, in South Africa, in Europe, all in these clubhouse rooms, and then we would migrate back to LinkedIn and we would carry the conversation on there. Um, and if you just, I mean, I think you've probably heard me say this before. Uh, One of my favorite quotes is, "There are no strangers here, only friends you haven't yet met." And that's been my approach to my presence on LinkedIn ever since I started posting here. I just like to share my thoughts about things that are interesting in the world and that fascinate me, and then have good conversation with people who find it interesting as well. And and over time, that starts to create a bit of a snowball effect, and you start to have a flywheel. And then, eventually I got to the point where I thought, this is such a powerful platform. There is so much opportunity on this platform if you show up with your eyes open and your voice loud. And I want to teach people how to take advantage of that. So that's why I started my company. And that's why I tell people, it is going to be hard. It is going to be a slog. It's not an overnight success thing. Nothing worth doing is, but your personal brand lasts as long as you do and beyond. So why would you try and hack it? You know what I mean? And so I just encourage people to be themselves, talk about what lights them up, and build relationships with people. That's really my favorite thing to do in the world. So it comes naturally.
Love it.
Yeah.
I've I guess I've been really active on LinkedIn for 3 years, but I had been studying it probably more like 5 or 6 years. I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago that there was started like the first wave, right? Like the
Yeah.
Austin Belsack and I think that Tim Denning guy and John Marty and Tim Salou. There was like a bunch. I was just like, what is going on here? Because I've been on LinkedIn at least since 2003 when I was in grad school at USC. And at the time, I mean, I think LinkedIn started in 2002 maybe, but at the time it was kind of inferior to Indeed and Monster.com. It was basically a job search site. That was my relationship with LinkedIn, and probably that's the way most people's relationship still is with LinkedIn. They just view it as kind of a job search site. But I was trying to switch careers. I was seeing some of these creators. I was like, wow, like this is super interesting to me. And I wanted to start creating content. I took some classes. I took a class with Liam and a few other like LinkedIn gurus. Learned some of the basics, which I think are important. I think those are important. I think there's some basics that these people have. But I mean, you could also at this point learn it probably just by kind of like consuming other creators' content at this point. I don't think you need to even pay for a course, but um, so yeah, it was like that was about 6 years ago, but I was like an interior I was like in the luxury interior design space. So the former designer I worked for, he was actually the interior designer for the Obama White House. And then so we have that in common. I know that you've done some work with the Obamas, but it wasn't until 2021 I got into the Web3 space. Just luck, like randomly got this job with this Mark Cuban NFT company, and I was like, okay, now I actually have the thing because nobody wanted to hear about luxury interior design. I was just like, this is not interesting. I can't build a presence here. I don't have the right thing to be talking about. So it was like a light bulb moment. I was like, all right, this was hot. We're coming in and out of the pandemic, NFTs, Web3. This is hot. So I just ran with it, and that's how I really accelerated my growth. Somebody at LinkedIn saw that I was writing about NFTs. they put me in the creator program, and then boom, boom, all of a sudden I have like a LinkedIn top voice badge, and then I mean, I rode that momentum because I knew it wasn't going to last forever, just like everything. Like what goes up must come down. So that's what I've done. But even like more recently, I don't talk really that much about Web3 per se anymore. But I've always tried to keep my content pretty general in terms of just like when I talk about Web3, I talk more about the impact on humans, on how that could help smaller creators make more money and, redistribute power and things like that. And I mean, I'm kind of carrying those same things into like taking on pod monsters now. And I'm sure like 3 months from now would be something else. If I actually look at it, I've changed the theme of my content quite a bit, but the core things have always stayed the same as I was focused on the impact on other humans. So, um, it is interesting though, because that's what's going to probably happen with any creator that's just starting out. You're probably going to have to shift. You're going to just have to shift at points to kind of what you talk about.
Right.
But my best advice is just gradually do it. Don't do a hard stop and then all of a sudden flip. I've seen a few creators do that, and that's just you can't do that. So I'm always about baby steps. Slowly introduce some new stuff. Slowly introduce it like a relationship, and then it just kind of naturally happens. But you
Yeah.
can't do like a full hard stop. But yeah, LinkedIn's been amazing. It's been great. So I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be talking to Liam without LinkedIn. I mean, we'd have
Well,
never met. So
yeah, and I mean, I could tell because you guys grow pretty rapidly, and maybe my story for some of these folks feels a little more maybe attainable in the moment. But I was at like 2,500 last year when I started because I had been, like you mentioned, I'd worked in the Obama administration, worked for the state of New York, and I worked for a bunch of nonprofits before I was at WeWork. So I was not really in the business space before I was at WeWork, and then WeWork, I was just really pumping our content because frankly, we needed all of the help we could get. When I started my own thing, I did probably what a lot of people do, which is I went and looked at the large followers, like who's talking about this, who has big accounts, and let me see what they're doing and see if I can nick their strategies. And then that's sort of when I stumbled into the knowing about the pods and stuff and realizing like, and I tried to mimic what they were doing at first. I didn't do it very long, but I hated it. I hated it. Like it just wasn't me. And I was like, my God, am I going to have to do this? And then like a month into it, I was like, this doesn't work. Like, why don't I just write how I talk, what I'm thinking about, and see what happens? And what ended up happening was that I started to get more engagement because most of the people I'd had connected with at that point knew me. So then the things I was writing about were things that they expected to hear from me. And I'm very like my language, my writing style is very much if you read my writing, you probably can hear my voice after you hear me talking. Like I just kind of stream of consciousness go. And I have, I don't have crazy numbers, but I've doubled in just over a year. So I'm just at
Nice.
about 5,000.
That's
And
great.
so, yeah, no, I'm super happy. And I have gotten most of my, I tell people 80 to 90% of my business has come from LinkedIn. And it's because I have a good network. I'm very lucky in my career, right? Like I've worked at places like WeWork and the Obama administration and on the first Obama presidential campaign. So I've got great contacts and people who've gone on to do amazing things. But like my content gets in front of them on a regular basis. So when they have a marketing need of some sort, I am top of mind. And they've actually told me that, people that I've
Mhm.
gotten business from. So, I think and I think we're all saying the exact same thing. And yes, Wally, you nailed it here. Be true to yourself for LinkedIn success. I think that is a very important message that, you know what, most people aren't going to get to 10,000 followers, right? They're just not. But if you're creating content that fits a niche, you will find success. And yes, it will be hard, as Liam, you said, and it will be slow going, but like, and you don't have to do it, John. You don't have to post like 5 times a week, like some people suggest you need to do. Like, just dip your toes in and just see
Yeah.
what feels right for you. And I think
I
that's
I
an important
I think
message.
you're hitting the nail on the head with that as well, right? I think I always tell people if you're just starting out creating content on this platform, you should figure out what the cadence is that will be possible for you to be consistent for the longest period of time. I've seen a lot of people that are like, I'm going all in on LinkedIn, and they do it for a month, and then they post every day for a month, and then at the end of the month, they're tapped, they're frustrated because they didn't see the growth that they were expecting. LinkedIn makes you work your ass off for every single impression, reaction, engagement, repost that you get. And I think that's deliberate, right? Like, Dan Roth was interviewed by Entrepreneur Magazine twice in the last year. And in both of those conversations, stressed that they do not want virality to be a big thing on this platform. I think they're really focused on helping people build connection and find opportunity. And so if you focus on doing that through the lens of your own personal brand, you'll find a lot of traction. I think the other thing that's important for people to remember is that you also have to um, build you have to put in the work to build connection with other people. For the longest time, I didn't do that. For the longest time when I was here on the platform, I had a full-time job. So I would just post in the morning and then I would kind of like answer some comments and then I was off to do my work day. And I came back and I wasn't really adding a ton of people to my network. I wasn't following a ton of people. I wasn't, searching for people based on what they're posting about, right? LinkedIn search is a hugely powerful tool that you can use to find folks that you would be interested in following. And when you fill your feed with content that fascinates you and is interesting to you, all of a sudden you have all these opportunities to have conversation with people from all over the world. And that is how the magic happens here. You build connections with people through the comment section of your posts, of other people's posts, right? And you can add up to 100 people per week to your network. If you do just that for 1 year, you're adding 4,000 people, assuming you have a solid connection rate, right? So those are the other pieces. I think a lot of people get it wrong. They're like, if I just show up and I start posting, I'm going to magically have all this engagement. I'm going to magically have all these
Right.
followers. You have to put in the work and do the reps, right? Take conversations to the DMs and get to know people. And that's why it's so important to build a personal brand that really represents who you are, right? I think people look at LinkedIn as a place that's an extension of their job resume, and it is to a certain extent, but
Yep.
there's also so much more context that you can provide people about the who behind the what, right? Resume, what I've done, where I've done it, and when. LinkedIn, who I am, why I do what I do, and how I do what I do. Those two things paired together, unstoppable.
Well, and I think, and I want to ask John about this, and Liam, will get your thoughts too. But like doing the work part, and I think that that's the part that like a lot of people gloss over, right? And John, I see in your feeds that you respond to almost everybody, and those are individual comments, right? Like, I mean, someone just mentioned in here the proliferation of AI comments, which is the most obnoxious thing on earth. But like, and Liam, you do this, and I try to do this on my scale too. But like, walk us through a little bit of that, John, as far as like, how you started doing that. Did you notice a difference in your growth or your engagement when you started doing that, or did you do that just straight from the beginning?
I think I've done it straight from the beginning for maybe a few months into it. I just didn't know, but then I was just like, it was just more about being like selfish, right? So I mean, people are taking the time to actually engage with your content. So it's more just like being not selfish. so and it probably helps. I don't know, but that's not necessarily why I'm doing it. I'm really just doing it because I'm actually trying to build a community, not an audience. So I learned the difference between community and audience earlier this year because I opened a Threads account and it's crazy. I only have like 1,000 Instagram followers. It's really just like close friends and I love it because it's very peaceful over there. So there's not a lot not a lot going on. But I opened a Threads account and I just started posting some. I just took old LinkedIn content, repurposed it, and all of a sudden I just started going crazy. I gained almost like 45,000 followers within 2 weeks. Had 10 million impressions, and I realized I started looking at the comments. Everybody thought I was John Krasinski, the actor, because he doesn't have a Threads account. But I didn't know what to do with these people because I was like, this is an
So
audience, this is in
amazing.
the community because they don't even think I'm me, right? So tell me a very valuable lesson. Just having a bunch of followers and engagement is not necessarily winning because I'm so confused right now. I actually don't know what to do with these people. So I don't know if I need to go and just continue just posting my own content, kind of like towing the line where it's like it's ambiguous whether it's me or really John Krasinski. I don't know. I don't know what to do with those people over there.
So
So
fantastic.
so that taught me the difference. So community is the people that are engaged with my comments. I mean, they feel like they know me. I feel like I know them. I actually know, like, like now I can comment. I mean, there's like inside jokes or just like different things that I know about them. So it makes it more fun, I guess. I mean, I guess when people get in the comments with mine, it's like fun. It's like a conversation going on, right? Whereas other creators, big creators, like they're more often than not, they're just not even responding, or they'll do a couple. And I just think that's disingenuous. You have the time. You have the time to you have the time. You're asking for all these people to just gobble up, your content and give you lots of likes and comments, but you don't have any, you don't even have like a half hour a day. I just think it's lame. Like there was whatever. I won't name him by name, but there was a big AI creator over the last couple of years. He first was crypto, then he went to AI, and like literally everybody's just commenting on his stuff all the time. I'm like, dude, this guy responds to 2 comments per post and he's just gobbling up likes. He moved them all to a newsletter. It's fine, but I'm just like, I was not going to get involved in that. I just like, I almost want to shake people like, come on, you're better than that. You deserve to be heard and recognized. So it's literally about recognizing other people as humans. And I'll also try at least once a week to go through one post, look at all the people that commented, and then go individually to their posts as well. Cause I think that's only fair to engage with their content as well. Just to, I try to make that something I do every week, but it's just about not being selfish, honestly. That's like that's how you build a real community as opposed to just an audience. That's that's my kind of
Yeah.
approach.
I think that's a really important distinction, the community compared to the audience. And I think a lot of people are doing that, like they're doing the blast and spraying and trying to build big numbers so that they could probably sell their services elsewhere. But for most people, it's so much more valuable to have that community, right? Like, I mean, Liam and I actually connected on Post way back, was our first connection. But like, we've chatted over the last year, and um, Liam's given me advice on LinkedIn. I've tossed him a couple clients his way. Like, that's the stuff that's in it. You know what? Like, that to me, like, feels so good to be able to help to send somebody to somebody else, especially if they've helped me. And imagine a platform where everybody was doing that, right? And I think, John, you're talking about that, like going on and engaging with other people's content as a way to sort of, in a way, pay it forward, but also acknowledge that they're posting important stuff. That to me is the essence of LinkedIn, and that to me is the powers. If people figure that out, right? Like, it is doing the work, but you've got to treat these people are your equals, right? Like, and I think sometimes people get in these like habits because they see big numbers and they're like, oh my God, it's such an honor to be like commenting in this person's post. And it's like, no, they just were in a right place at a right time and got on early and they did a lot of work. But like, we're all humans here, and like, we're all professionals. And to me, that's a much more authentic way and a much more powerful way. So even if, like Liam, you mentioned, like having 40,000 close friends is a hell of a lot better than having 500,000 people that maybe are John Krasinski fans or whatever, and like don't really like know anything. So I hope for folks that are watching, that's like a really important thing. Like, maybe you have 500 connections, but they're like the 500 most badass connections that you could have and help you grow. So, I think that it's really, I'm glad to hear that. And Liam, I know you do the exact same thing. And it's just something that anybody can do, whether they've got, 80,000 followers or 5. Like,
100%.
yeah.
And I think that we've all heard, right? LinkedIn is the largest networking event on earth. It's 24/7, 365 if you want it to be. There's no geographic limitations. I view every post on LinkedIn essentially as kind of a micro networking event. You have created a post. There are people that are showing up to have a conversation on that post. They're not just showing up to leave their comment and leave necessarily. They want to see who else is commenting, and they want to see who they can meet and get to know. And it's like shaking hands and introducing yourself to people at a networking event. You're just like, hey, how's it going? Like we're having a dialogue back and forth. And I think if people overthink this platform, they won't get the benefit out of it, right? Just it's really not that complicated. It's following your fascination, it's writing how you talk, it's meeting people where they are and having conversations with them, and finding folks that are interesting to you. And I think that is really something that doesn't get utilized often enough here. And so I coach people to do that really, really a lot. I mean, I'll say to people that I'm starting to work with, if they're just starting out on creating content, I'll say, your post is not going to get a ton of engagement and you shouldn't expect it to. What you should be doing is putting it out there and then spending time commenting on other people's content so that they become aware of who you are, and then they will go back to your profile, they will look at your posts, then they will follow you, because that is the way you're going to maximize your opportunities here. So that's my thinking.
I love it. I love it. I mean, the one thing I was going to say earlier is I feel like LinkedIn, like there's this like professionalism pedigree. I feel like it's held on a higher like standard in terms of how it should be. So I guess when you see this pod monster stuff, unethical behavior, it's almost like I feel like there's a code of ethics that at least when we initially came on that was supposed to be adhered to, and it's kind of gone a little off tangent. So I guess that's why I will continue to beat home this narrative. I don't care. If somebody told me not to do it, I don't care. I'm not going to listen to them. So I don't care. So once you give this dog a bone, he's going to keep going. So it's fine. It's like I would never specifically call anybody off on platform, but maybe off platform we could have a conversation. So, yeah, it's just like but I feel like LinkedIn should be held to a higher standard than other platforms with fire emojis all the time and just other stuff nonsense going on. So I don't know. I feel like we need to have a certain code of ethics in place for this platform because I feel like that was always kind of like the intention when most of us came on that we would be, almost like working at a really, like a Fortune 500 company. I feel like that's kind of the mindset. So when you see all these bad actors and other things going awry, you want to bring it back to center a little bit. So,
well, we have plenty of social platforms where people can argue and yell and scream at each other all day long and like do all of these like hacky things, right? So it'd be nice. It's nice. It would be nice, and I mean, I think we mostly have it, but like LinkedIn to me is very different, right? Like if someone follows me on Threads, they will see a heck of a lot different content from me than you will see on LinkedIn, because on Threads I tend to talk about my political background and the environment that's happening right now with the elections. But on LinkedIn, it's professional. And I think, having your face and having your title or bio, whatever you want, helps to keep that going. But I would love to see a code of ethics thing. I would be happy to help write it or co-sign it or whatever, because I think like, instead of these badges that mean nothing, right? Other than to train. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen, I've been uh, railing on this for a while now. The badges are meaningless, and it's just meant to train LinkedIn's algorithms and AI for free, not paying anybody. And then a badge doesn't actually give you any lift or anything whatsoever. I would love to see a badge that says, yes, I have signed the ethics pledge or something like that, that shows you don't engage in that behavior. Because I think you're right, John, you mentioned earlier, I think people are starting to get wise to this. And I think people just want that authentic connection. They don't want this hacky garbage. But I don't like LinkedIn says that they, and I know they say this, they don't want virality, but like I still see these massive posts flying around that are clearly either stolen content or just the same people doing the same stuff all over again. So
yeah,
I
did you
gotta,
see? I saw that, like Instagram apparently, because a lot of people repost stuff and then they take credit for it. They basically aggregate and curate. But Instagram's now going to replace that with the original content. They're basically like giving them the middle finger, like, no, no. So, I mean, it's like, come on, LinkedIn, you're owned by Microsoft. You got lots of money to figure this out. I mean, Liam beeps on this. It's like, I feel like there should be like the product could be a lot more superior, just based on the money and like the, the big guy that's up above LinkedIn. I mean, there's so much potential. I mean, Liam, I mean, if they made you CEO of LinkedIn tomorrow, what would be like the top 3 things that you would do immediately?
I would build a groups product that basically rivals Circle and School and all those other platforms, and just open that up, let people start charging for groups on LinkedIn so they can make some money by having participation from community. The DMs would be, I would build a mobile app that was for chat, that was like LinkedIn chat directly, because I think there's a lot of conversation that can be happening that's not happening because of the user experience. Um, and I would also make it easier for us to find out who our most passionate followers are, people that engage the most. I mean, there are ways to do that, but it's all through third party, and it's paying for other services. If you want me to make the most of this platform, it's very important to give me visibility into how to do that. And I think LinkedIn does not do an effective job at that. They've finally added analytics, but the analytics here have a lot to leave a lot to be desired compared to analytics elsewhere. And I think that that's a really uh, important thing to take into consideration. So I think they are evolving them. I mean, I would have loved to see a world where Microsoft bought Twitter and incorporated a lot of Twitter into the LinkedIn feed, because a lot of the features that were there are better user experience than what we currently have today. But I think like a lot of people sort of knock on LinkedIn for the usability of the platform or lack of usability of the platform. And I think it's also important for us to remember, like, we're dealing with a company that's been in business for 20 years. There's a lot of legacy code. There's a lot of stakeholders. They've got recruiters, they've got salespeople, they've got content creators. There's uh, so many different masters that they have to keep happy. So I can imagine that the product team has a hell of a time prioritizing what to release and what not to release. Like, I was surprised to see how well designed the LinkedIn Games product is relative to the minor improvements we've seen to content features, right? Like, there's a disproportionate emphasis there. And I'm trying to figure out personally, like, why is that investment being made versus improving the content creation experience? So it's all sort of push and pull, give and take. It's a tough job being in product.
Oh, wow. I love these comments though. Joel's in here. He loves pods. Pods are how you grow big. I have a new one launching, $19,999 per minute. That sounds like a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I bought 5 of them and now I have $1 million.
Well, John, you asked a good question. I want to hear from you. What are the 3 things that if you were had a product at LinkedIn, what would you want to change or fix?
I mean, I would tweak that algorithm to minimize the impact of the pod monsters. That would be step 1. I know they know. Here's the thing. They know who they are. A lot of them don't get the top voice blue badge. So they kind of know who they are. So that would be step 1. That would be, I think, step 1. Tweak that algorithm. There's enough data out there. They know. I think it's maybe also changing sort of the metrics too on how you evaluate people, because there was a post from Darren McKee, but I mean, I look at my engagement metric now, just how much people are liking and commenting, and I'm commenting back. That to me is my most important, not really impressions or follower at
Same.
this point. Yeah. So, because that's, again, I'm really focused on community. I mean, hell, I wrote a book called The Future of Community. So, I mean, community is always what I've sort of built my brand on. So, I think that would be step 1. Um, God, what other things would I want to do on LinkedIn? I mean, there's so many. I think there's got to be an easier way. The comments, replying to comments, there's got to be an easier way to do it. It's so manual. The experience between the mobile and the desktop are just so different. And I mean, I'm responding to almost every comment the first 24 hours. So just making that easier. And also I think it's also just going back and figuring out, all right, who are all the people? Like, I would love to have like a top 100 list of the people that engage the most with my content that week, and then make sure and use that as a way for me to go and respond to their content, as opposed to me having to literally just randomly pick a post and be like, all right, this seems like it had a lot of engagement from my core fans. I'm going to use this to reply to them. I would love to really reward sort of my I don't know, super fans, the people that are really actively engaging, and really, like giving them, kind of like reciprocity in
Yeah.
terms of what they're doing. So that should be something super clean and easy to do. Um,
Have you heard
yeah,
of
and
fruit? Have you heard of
and
Fruitful, John?
honestly, I would get rid of the games feature. I mean, to me, LinkedIn's already a big video game. Like, the last thing I need is like more distraction. So, I mean, I already think LinkedIn is one big video game. I like why there's like now like games on top of the game we're already in. I have no idea. So that would be my 3 things.
It's bringing you back to your metaverse roots, John. You're in a game within a game within a game. It's like it's all coming full circle for you.
I mean, we're already in one big video game in life, and then we're like in another video game in LinkedIn. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Well, I got a couple. I think like the in mail is completely unusable. You know, most of what I get in there is just spam, and there's no way to actually flag it as spam. I used to like flag them, and LinkedIn would say, "Oh, they didn't violate any community guidelines," even though it's the same line over and over again from the person who just created their account that doesn't even have a photo associated with it. So like, and maybe that's a connection with Liam's chat feature, because I would like a way to actually communicate with people that isn't just like through that in-mail window. I think the
Yeah, like
algorithm,
imagine if you could just filter out communication by people who have verified their identity.
that's
Like that
exactly,
would
yeah.
be
I mean, that would solve a
awesome.
lot of it. Like for that other tab is completely meaningless. Like I don't
Yep.
get anything of any value in there other than garbage. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think fixing that. Um, you know, I think a functioning groups option is really good. And someone actually asked here, I don't know if you saw it, Liam, but someone said, "What's the difference between a paid group and a pod?" And I think I can answer that. That this is for groups to like for people that they could pay to be involved to learn about a particular topic. It's not to
Yeah.
get into a pod and like fake juice your engagement. That's the difference there.
Correct. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, most people in the pods, they don't even know each other. They literally don't even know each other. It's
right.
just like 80 strangers who just happen to have $10,000 to throw into the thing. So good for you. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's not real connections. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's all an illusion. But
No, it's
I
entirely.
you know, actually somebody had a great comment too on the scheduled posts, being able to edit those.
Yeah.
That would be great. That would
Yeah.
be actually be a great feature too. That's a pain because I there's so many times I schedule a post and I'm like, oh geez, I'm gonna have to delete it and then redo it because I see an error.
And that shouldn't
Yep.
be actually that hard for them to fix. Like that's something that I know other tools have. So I don't know why they haven't done that. But
And also, like, there's times when you do a post with a video and there's maybe an error in the video or something like that, you can't replace the video. I mean,
yeah.
That's big for you.
Yeah.
that's big for me. That's big. I love the videos. That's my best defense against AI. That's why I did it a year and a half ago. I was like, oh, there's only one way for me that I'm in full control of to fight AI. It's like start doing videos because nobody else can do that. So, um, and then one other thing people should note is like a lot of these big creators, they engage or whatever. A lot of most of them are probably using virtual assistants, just FYI. And I actually, it brings the debate. Like, what would you rather have? Would you rather be dealing with a virtual assistant like who God knows where they're at, or AI bot? What's like what's worse? Is there any difference? I don't know. Is there a difference?
I would say no, right? Because
Yeah.
it's you've trained a human to respond instead of you've trained an AI, right? And you're not getting any meaningful comments from that, right? They're saying like totally agree or yes or emojis, and it's not a deep conversation like when you guys respond. Like it's an
Yeah.
actual reply from a human being. But
I
yeah,
also
this
question
yeah,
like the motivation behind leveraging either of those two things because you're literally just responding because you know that you should be doing that so that you can juice your metrics. You're not doing it because you actually want to get to know anybody or show them any appreciation for showing up. So I think like that's my MO is like I will always be the person commenting. Sometimes I won't be able to hit, 100% of all the comments for every single post, especially because LinkedIn doesn't necessarily notify you beyond a certain point. But um, it will always be me if I'm writing behind my name. Like this platform is the last platform you should be outsourcing your activity to a VA or AI or otherwise. And so I definitely think people just need to bear in mind that you should always be talking from your account as you. Um, you're not that busy. Come on.
That's another thing I would change is the LinkedIn notifications are just completely broken. Like I will get emails hours later that people have commented on my posts, and I'm like, well, that I already engaged with that because I saw it myself. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, either fix it or get rid of it. It's just like yeah, it's not particularly helpful.
I think it's interesting to see. I think that LinkedIn is going the route of emulating YouTube's approach to content. I don't think they're trying to be like TikTok or Instagram or any of the other chronologically based social feeds. I think what they're trying to do is become a repository for useful information that can be, valuable for years on end. Um, and I wonder if they're hiring people from those companies to come and help them build this tool, or if they're trying to figure it out on their own. And if they are trying to do the latter, I think that's a mistake because I think you've got these companies that have far more advanced approaches to this stuff. You just hire people who understand that and bring them to LinkedIn and give them the autonomy to do some stuff. You'll see improvements pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. One other thing I would say if I was like a CEO of LinkedIn, though, we got to improve the process of who gets blue badges. It's insanity. Like they just gave away like candy this past year. I see some of these
Yeah.
people and I just cringe. I'm like, who are these people? Like literally, you gamed the system. You gamed it. You gamed it. And there's people like Liam, Darren McKee, Team El Hodge. I mean, they should already have it. They've been doing it the right way the entire time. So it's just really disappointing that people were able to game it because it's just not fair. I think a lot of people should have them revoked, to be honest with you. I like literally, it's like a new president coming in office and just revoking, certain people that were appointed to different positions. That's what needs to happen with the blue badges. Seriously, it's time. It is time because it's out of control a little bit in terms of like who has them right now, who doesn't. So I think there's some opportunities to really fix that. Yeah. And Joel, Joel doesn't even, does Joel not have one either? Gee, what is going on in this world? What is going on?
Well, guys, we have just chewed up an entire hour.
That was quick.
Good, since we didn't even have an outline of what we were going to do. We just riffed, which Liam and I have done these before, and that's really the best way to have these. So I want to thank everybody who stayed with us the entire hour. I know it's a lot to ask people to be on for this amount of time during a work day. But this was a great conversation. Thank you, Liam, and thank you, John, for being here. And we got 3 minutes. So if you want a parting message for folks about building that authentic engagement, here's your shot.
Go for it.
I'll just reiterate, show up, be yourself, be consistent, write how you talk, make connection with people, and have conversations, and don't overthink it. This is a place to be yourself. Remember that professionals are people first. We have personalities, and the people that work with us, whether they're employers or they're clients of ours, they work with us because of our personalities and because our personalities add value to their life. So don't hide your personality here. You're doing yourself a disservice. And if you ever need help with it, hit me up.
Great.
All I gotta say is don't join a pod. Don't join a pod. Pods are bad, kids.
That too.
Pods are bad, kids. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I don't think anybody got that quite before about your feelings about pods until just now.
Yeah, I've been given way too much information now, and I'm just like, I'm running with it. It's that same in my book. I wrote a chapter about Web3 called "Liars, Cheaters, Scammers, and Cash Grabbers," and I just don't like when people don't play by the rules. So that's it. And honestly, Tim, you'll appreciate this too. But Lisa Gable, who I got connected to on LinkedIn, she used to work for like Bush and I think Obama and some other presidents. But I mean, my next stage like in life is to go into politics. I wanted to see if I could build community here. I sort of have been fairly successful, but I want to take this to a bigger stage. So like LinkedIn's great. It'll always be part of my life, but I have bigger fish to fry. So I'm going to take out the pod monsters and then on to bigger things.
Well,
DC.
maybe governor of California. Kraske for governor. Kraske for governor of California. How about that?
Yeah.
The first LinkedIn influencer to enter politics. How about that? We'll call you that.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So it's either governor of California or maybe something more like, Congress, Senate, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Work your way up.
Work my way up. It's time. I just know it's time. It's time. So LinkedIn's been a great training ground for like kind of running a political campaign. It's been great. So thank you, LinkedIn.
Well, thank you guys. And the only thing I would add to all of this is just be authentically you. Like whatever feels right, do that. And, all three of us are here to help you if you need anything. So as you know, we'll reply to comments. So again, now we're at 1. So thank you guys. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, John. And thank everybody that's been on. This recording will be available afterwards as well. And I saw someone asking about a part 2. So maybe we'll have to get together in a few weeks and see.
I mean, this is an actively engaged audience.
I know.
These people are like, people are loving this. No, we have to do this more. People want it. You can tell. You can feel the energy.
Right. We're back. We'll be back, guys. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it, man. Take